Hey, and welcome to this episode of Co-Creating with AI. I am Martin, and with me is, as always, Rasmus, my co-host. How are you today, Rasmus?
I'm good. Uh, yeah, it's been a it's been a busy week,
Yeah,
so a little bit tired. I haven't averaged more than 5-6 hours last few nights, but yeah, enjoying it. Really enjoying it, both work and life.
yeah.
So
Summer is
yeah,
here
it's
for
good.
real now.
Yeah, I mean for real, like I'm swimming in the lake nearby, like every day now. So it's so nice after work. How are you doing?
I'm good. Right now, I'm eating my mosquitoes and sweating like crazy. It's super hot, sitting indoors, and looking forward to get outside in the shade a bit. Maybe going to the lake as well.
Nice. And as you said, like the as always with me Rasmus, we are going to start bringing on people,
Yeah,
being less self-absorbed. I have the first couple of like quite interesting people lined up. They just couldn't make it this week, but hopefully the next, fingers crossed.
hmm
But yeah, we have some good stuff I think to talk about today. Yeah.
yeah. And today we're gonna bring out a continuation of we talked about last episode. And at last episode we talked about UX with AI, and now we're going to talk about AI native apps. It's something that we mentioned briefly in the last episode, and the way we define AI native in Multiply, we have set the bar pretty high for ourselves. We want AI native to mean that everything you can do as a user with keyboard and mouse can also be done by AI. Like 100, everything as 100% of all actions can be done with AI as well. Is and does that rhyme with your
Yeah,
definition as well, Rasmus?
yeah, definitely. I mean, I like that one. I think we can expand upon it and explore it. But I think the reason why it's a pretty good definition is that if you really like look forward into like how people will co-create with AI, right? Then you need like it's like if you and I are going to paint together, we both need hands to, or some kind of appendix to, pick up the paintbrush
Mm.
and dip into the paint and reach the canvas. So I think it's a really really important definition based on like how we see the world in the future, and not only looking at AI as like, as the paintbrush, so to say,
Mm.
that you pick up, and highly, effective paintbrush, sure, but someone who picks up the paintbrush and uses it. So yeah, I like it. I like the definition.
Yeah, and especially because it gets us away from the chat interfaces that everybody is um, thinking about AI right now as basically pure chat only, and which is very very limiting in terms of developing new apps and new experiences.
And I think that's actually interesting because, like, when you said that, I'm like, isn't chat AI native? Because you're both chatting. But then I
Yeah,
thought about it, and actually, the way they're developing it is that the AI can you interact via the chat, but the AI can do a bunch of things,
yeah,
with plugins, etc. The way it's moving, and especially as they take it to be multimodal, like you've like everyone's seen probably
mm,
demos of, at least all the Twitterati have seen demos of when it like can generate gifs inside of it, etc. So yeah, I actually agree. I don't think chat is an AI native interface.
mm. And so, how do you think we should approach this as a topic for the episode?
No, I mean, I think examples. So we talked like the last couple of episodes were the first ones I think that were quite multiply heavy. So we were, of
Mm.
course, talking about our vision for a co-creative future together with AI, and then related that and made it hopefully more tangible using multiply as an example,
Mm.
and the kind of platform we built. And then the last episode was like much more closer to now, like how do we define AI native? What's a good UX and UI and product to co-create with AI?
Mm.
And then using multiply as the example, and multiply here and now in that case. So I think like I mean let's go beyond go beyond that. We're not only talking
Mhm.
our own book, and actually talk about some of the amazing stuff, like some of the amazing AI native apps and interface UX explorations and innovations that are happening out there. So I'd say let's do that, and then
Yes.
we always throw in kind of values and vision and stuff like that anyhow. But
Mm,
and let's be creative about it. If we come up with something new around, especially AI native apps and interfaces, maybe we can give
mm.
some people, like some aspiring entrepreneurs, some ideas.
So let's perhaps start with Adobe Firefly, which is an amazing feature in Adobe Photoshop where you can AI generate images and actually soon video as well. They have demoed that recently, just in the past couple of days, that Firefly will have video capabilities. And so let's say that I'm using Photoshop with Firefly, then it's sort of an AI native feature in terms of that um, that feature being only it's really purpose built for AI. They've had different kinds of content aware fill before, but this really takes it to the next level. However, it's a very long step further to making Adobe Photoshop as a whole an AI native app, because there's a ton of features where which of course the AI doesn't have access to all the other tools and all the other filters and so on. The AI can do nothing of that as it is right now. Although they have a very advanced scripting language. So Adobe Photoshop is built on a very advanced API. Everything you can do in Photoshop is accessible through that API. So basically, they could hand that over to the AI as well, and allow the AI to basically run the show in Photoshop.
I think it's a very interesting example, actually, and thank you for that explanation of how it works. I didn't know that actually. It like one thought that came from me is that like everyone is talking about, or at least like VCs and thinkers around AI and startups and stuff are talking a lot about like, oh, but won't only the existing companies, implement these functionalities, right? And I actually think it's interesting. Maybe, and this is a big maybe, the products that are built with a very specific domain specific language slash in this case a scripting language where you can like call upon the functions where it's basically built such that the computer itself could express all the actions.
Mm,
I'm not sure, like you're the engineer here, but like does that make sense? Because that's one of the reasons why I'm so bullish on like multiply is that I mean in our case it's a no code tool, right?
yeah.
But because of the way we've built the domain model, we can do things like AI generate the full apps,
Mm,
so very advanced sequences of workflows that we don't have to predefine, but that the AI can understand by us teaching it the language of multiply, and
mm,
then it can respond to natural language instructions, questions, etc., and express itself in that language, i.e., in the UX of our product. And that seems to me to be something like with the example you gave, where Adobe Photoshop might be, very well suited to become fully AI native if it's built
mm.
that way. Or does that make sense? Or is that just me being like hobby? I'm not even a hobby developer, but trying to be a technical kind of guy. Or does that make sense?
No, I definitely think it makes sense, and uh, and there's so much built-in software which has a scripting language running behind the scenes. Um, Many games, many OSs like Windows and Mac, and a lot of software has a scripting language. Just because that's a layer that allows the developers to have sort of a meta development methodology, and where the uh, some developers can work on this implementing the scripting language, and other developers can work on implementing the UI and the UX, and it's a separation of concerns. And there's of course that's very prevalent in web development, where you have a server client architecture, and the client needs to talk to the server through an API. which is also sort of a scripting language. And so our AI native apps can start interfacing directly to the API, and they will have maybe a specific permission model for that, where you give the AI different permissions than the user have, and then but then after that you could basically hand over API access to the AI.
But that's interesting. But let's me dive a bit deeper there. So, with my understanding of our conversation now,
Mm,
like that would seem that the more generalized creative tools, like more the more like kind of broad platform like products like Adobe, that is like, you can do all like image and video editing. Like
mm,
it's not like you can do a few select workflows, right? But it's like broad capabilities would generally implement some kind of scripting language.
mm,
Whereas if I would imagine like more specific built products with very specific workflows you can take and actions you can take, such as like, I don't know, what's a good example? HubSpot maybe, or
mm,
like many of these narrow AI apps coming out now, or um, a lot of the SaaS apps out there,
mm,
where you can like do one thing ish, but specifically you can do like a few things.
yeah.
And I would imagine that if you build something like that, it doesn't make sense to invest in that in like your own domain specific scripting language like it would for Adobe. Does that make sense? Like, because that could be an interesting like a division of looking upon this.
Well, since many apps still like more purposeful niche apps still have an API because they are client server. Maybe they have a mobile app, or they have a web app. They still have an API, which
Okay.
is something that the AI can interface directly
But so maybe
into.
then it's just like about the, I guess, co-creative capacity
Yeah.
of the AI, in the sense that Adobe has shitloads of like
And
actions and
yeah.
combinations of actions, whereas HubSpot has like probably like three orders of magnitude less,
Mm,
different configurations
sure.
and actions that the AI can access by being
Mm,
taught to use the HubSpot API. So
mm.
maybe it's just on that level. Maybe it's not on the level I said. Maybe it's just on like on that level.
Something, just to illustrate, something you can already do in Photoshop is that you can record macros. So you can implement a workflow in Photoshop. um, let's say you want to run filters on photos, and you want to save them in three different sizes: one for web, one for mobile, and one for print. And then you want your autograph in the bottom right corner. If you record as a workflow, you can export it actually to an executable file, and then like an exe file in Windows, and then every time you drop an image onto that exe file, it will
Mm,
execute the workflow on that image, and then you can batch process as well. So you can say, uh, replay this workflow on these 2,000 photos.
yeah.
And so that's and so imagine handing over that capability to the AI to do the same, but purpose built for, or purposefully adjusting the workflow according to the content of the images, or according to the current prompt it's working from, or a conversation with the user.
That's amazing. Yeah, cool. I mean, I didn't actually know you could like record it without coding it. I always envisioned these things as like, Excel macros, which I don't know,
Mm,
maybe they have now, but when I was using it back in the day, you definitely couldn't record them. You had to write them.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, nice. That was actually really like insightful and like
Mm.
thanks for that. Like I'm
And,
I'm with that.
and then to bring back just to for our listeners to keep up, what we're talking about is AI native apps. So what we are envisioning now is how Photoshop or other scripted apps or API backed apps can become fully AI native by handing over the script language or the API to the AI to interface directly and work sort of autonomously with. So maybe we should talk a bit about that autonomy. What does it mean for the AI to be an autonomous agent working directly with the back end of the app that I'm using.
Sure. I think it's interesting because if we build on that, so let's imagine, we have an AI native app, right, with the definition. The AI can do anything you can do. Let's say Photoshop is fully AI native in a
Yeah.
year. I bet they're working on it. Uh, whether or not they have a different kind of definition and vision yet. Um, and then let's like then it has the capability, right? It has the arms and legs and paint brushes and I don't know how you used to cut video, but maybe you cut it in
Yeah.
like the film, like
Yeah.
scissors, right? Uh, so there it has the tools, right? It has the tools,
Yes.
it has the tool set, it has the
Mm.
toolbox, and then it has the intelligence, which is of course the whole power of the LLM. That it's like pretty much generalized intelligence. Like, of course, we're not calling it AGI yet, but it's
Mm.
next word prediction seems to be like a very good mirror for how just a neural network, like a brain, works, since it can learn principles and apply them. Um, which is, for those who don't know, that's how these language models work. They're trained on incredible amounts of words, generally, or images. And then based on that, they can, you give it something and it predicts what comes next. And it's pretty amazing. Like, I think it surprised probably OpenAI as well, like how good that could be, like in the
Mm.
beginning. Um, so yeah, so now we have that. We have intelligence, right? We have the brain, we have the arms and legs, and the tools,
Mm.
right? So my toolbox. So now the question is, what is required for me to, given my brain and given my arms and given my toolbox, to be autonomous in doing something? Let's
Mm.
imagine I'm carpenting. So I have my toolbox with my, hammer and stuff. Uh, so now I'm gonna, renovate my house. So what do I need to be autonomous? Well, I need to understand the purpose of what I'm doing. Hey, I'm like renovating the kitchen, and more
Mm.
specifically, I need to understand what the actual goal is. So renovating the kitchen is not good enough. I need to understand that, and that I think can be given through prompts. That's natural language, kind of expressible, or you can express it in natural language. So there I need like to know what I'm doing, and then I need to know the context. I need to have the input data, right?
Mm.
To understand like what the kitchen looks like. I need to understand, what good looks like. Maybe a
Mm.
picture of a great looking kitchen. I need to have information about, knowledge actually, which is what a carpenter has, right? About good materials to use for what, and like providers of different kind of kitchen equipment, etc. So I need context. I need intelligence. I need tools. I need what's the last one? I need purpose, like what the goal is, objective, and I need context. So I think that if um, if an AI native app, which we define by having access to intelligence, right? That was
Mm.
sort of not said, but that's it, and having access to the tool set. Then to go from AI native to AI native autonomous, right? Then
Mm.
it needs to you need to be able to give quite advanced instructions. And based on those instructions, the AI needs to either be given or construct, fetch the right context.
Yeah.
So we talked about how we do that in Multiply, right, last time. But I think maybe should we do either we dive further into Adobe and try to explore. First of all, do you agree with that? Does that make sense? Those four things?
Yeah.
Is that
I,
like
I
a good?
I think those four things are needed. I don't think it's complete though.
Okay, go for it.
Yes, because what you also need is the capability of planning and performing a plan. Let's say it's as simple as drawing a square. You still need to make a plan. Like first I draw the left side and then the bottom and then the right side and the top. And you need to be able to make that plan and then execute the plan. And if it's a more complex task that you're given, like do personal branding for this person, then of course the plan is very much more complex and it's multi-level.
Yeah,
It's like you're going to like the overall task is to make a person give a person a stronger brand in social media, and and first you need to, like, the first step of the plan is to define what is that brand and understand the parameters of who the person is and who they want to be perceived as, and and that requires you to be able to gather data of your purpose, as if you're the AI in this case, and then it comes down to like even just posting a tweet. Then you need to have the ability to, okay, I need to write the tweet, I need to be able to send it to the Twitter API, and maybe in between, I need to quality check it as well, maybe with my user, or I need to check it towards a checklist. Is this tweet good enough? So
That's interesting. Oh, sorry, go on.
yeah, so just like the making plans, doing quality assurance on the plan first, and then having um, quality assurance and testing sort of part of every plan you make, and then yeah, and then executing according to the plan. That's
Yeah,
that's something that's
yeah, it's really interesting. Like planning, I wonder if that's the like right category on that level. Like what comes to me is I don't know if it was you who sent it to me or if we'd even discussed it previously on this podcast, but like it's a little bit like you have a kid and there goes my one of those. Can you close the door, please? All right. Okay, there comes the carpenters. That's good in terms of
yeah.
in terms of illustrating the example. So let's say like my daughter, right? She's born. She has intelligence, right?
Mm,
Or not like in terms of like the raw capability of her neural network in her brain and
yeah.
body. And then she, of course, needs, but that's not enough to be able to do something well. You
Mm,
need to have um, like I don't know if proficiency is the right word, but like it sort of feels like you need to learn how to best do something,
mm,
which means set up the plan, which tools to use, which information to gather, because you can't use all information. Like even an AGI would have to, I imagine, uh, you know, select, like at least rank which information is relevant and important to what you're doing right now. So it seems like there's like a proficiency there, like at least that's the word I would put upon it, like that includes planning, that includes, what it does good look like,
mm,
evaluation. There are probably good frameworks for this out there, but I think it's a really like an interesting kind of, if I would allow to put those things you said under proficiency, it's like an interesting
mm,
five parameter framework that
yeah.
maybe we can apply to some other example. I don't know if we would move past Adobe. Have you looked into like, did you see the Roblox demo? Or I think it was Roblox. It's one of these like game engines. It might have been what is the other one called? Unity. Um, but it was one of these big game engines. Did you see that demo?
I don't know what you're referring to, so I don't know, but
Okay,
I've
but anyhow, yeah.
yeah.
Go on. Before we go on there, like what like did you have any thoughts around that?
No, maybe you can expand on what you're referring to. Like what case is that you're referring to with the game engine?
No, I was just thinking like if we would explore autonomy, like
Mm,
what would an autonomous um, game engine, like an AI native autonomous game creation platform
yeah.
looks like. Whether that's Roblox, that I guess is closer to the non-technical users, or
Hmm.
Unity, which is closer to the code for technical users.
Yeah.
Like if we, and then I can see if I can give a good recollection of the demo I saw. But what do you think? Like if we would apply this framework, or just think about the question of autonomy, AI native autonomy in like a game engine context.
Mm. No, so those two examples you mentioned are famously like primary examples of in case of Roblox, a no code game engine, and Unity is very much like a code driven game engine. And in both of those cases, Unity is very much an editor where you write code, but it's also point and click. Then and you can there are no code workflows within Unity, and but you are much more limited if you don't know how to code. So I can imagine in an AI native version of those. But basically, you can go from a prompt to a game with the AI driving all of that. Hopefully, though, it's a co-creation process. So AI and humans are co-creating, and so that could be on many levels. Unity, if the if for example, for a no code human user of Unity, maybe the AI can help writing code to implement the things that the human is not capable of, expanding the capabilities of a no code approach to working in Unity. With Roblox, it's more maybe the AI can help with like if the human creates wants to create a concept, maybe when you have a concept of this is how the game mechanic works and this is an example of a level in the game, maybe the AI can be tasked with like expanding that to 100 levels based on the game mechanic of the first, and that could be a way to leverage Roblox as an AI native platform. Just off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, we're we're just exploring here.
Yeah,
Uh, I mean, I haven't really like actually verbalized any thoughts around this before. But
yeah.
if I would take what you're saying, which I agree with, and then take it to autonomy, what would autonomy mean in that context?
Mm,
So I guess like it's interesting, like autonomy in that context would mean that the AI is not only doing what you asked it to, almost. It's not only like it's not keeping itself limited to what you said. It's like a little bit like you express a goal.
mm.
I want to create this type of game. Give me the first. I don't know what's the first thing of a game called. The first use the word chapter. No, it's
Level, like a,
level. Yeah.
yeah.
So like the first level. So you basically say that's the boundary, like we
Mm,
talked about in early episode of this, and that's the boundary. And the goal is that I want a first person shooter with I don't know in the world of magic, and maybe I've even AI
mm,
generated what the world of magic look like. But then like based on that, it can autonomously work within that frame, and it can ask me questions. Which AutoGPT is quite famous for being one of the first that implemented, and then it can plan using its intelligence, using the tools of the platform, using the purpose you've given it, the objective,
mm,
and then using the context you've given, and maybe that is provided by other things. Like maybe you say, "Hey, like this game, I really like this game." um, when we really, and then with the proficiency to then plan and judge what good looks like, based on maybe who I am, the categories, like the definition of me as a target group, because I'm the target group in this case. We're thinking, so that's like an interesting thing of taking it like at least like towards autonomy is like we explored in an earlier episode, like giving it more and more room to act within.
yeah.
So the like it like within a less specific purpose, like objective, and potentially a less specific like provision of context, it can it can work, plan, execute, and run through the thing.
Mm,
So like that's at least one step towards autonomy, I think, because as we defined earlier in earlier episode, like it's like autonomy is not like yes or no. Autonomy is kind of a gradient. It's a
yes.
scale.
Yeah.
It's a size of the sphere
Mm,
that you can operate within. So that's what came up for me.
mm.
Um, how do you relate that?
Yeah, I think what is interesting is that we started out talking about AI native apps, and then we delved into autonomy as part of that. Is and I am thinking about, is that autonomy a requirement for the AI native app? I think that in order for um, the co-creation to happen, and then perhaps an AI native app with autonomy for the AI, like those are basic requirements. Maybe there are more requirements, but for through co-creation to happen, I think those are really good starting points.
I
That
agree. It's
the human and the AI has equal opportunity to affect the end result of what you're working on, and the AI has autonomy, and of course the human has autonomy to work on end result.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like we defined AI native, right? With these five different aspects, expanding on how where we started.
Mm,
And without it being AI native, there's very limited opportunity for autonomy. Or one other way to say it is if we would put AI native on a scale across these five, that were like a multidimensional matrix across these five dimensions,
mm,
then the more AI native it is, um, the and the broader the kind of capabilities of the actual software
mm,
product. I mean, that will expand to the physical world as well, of course. The more autonomy is possible. But then implementing autonomy is also like a gradual thing,
mm,
in the sense that there is already autonomy in very narrow, like AI native tools,
mm,
and even in very narrowly AI native tools, in the sense
mm,
that they're both like not fully AI native, say the Adobe Firefly example, and they don't have a broad set of actions that can be taken.
mm,
So they're and then like I think expanding on how AI native the product is, and then expanding on the autonomy of the AI. That's where co-creation comes in, which I think is a really good segue into potential next episode. Is like, okay, AI native to, let's put it in sequence, to
yes,
autonomous, to like an active co-creation with that autonomous AI inside an AI native
yeah,
product. That's something I would love to talk about. Like, but I think we're at 30 plus now, so maybe we'll leave that for another episode.
yes. That sounds good. I think we learned something today, and we have come up with definitions for a native and the value of autonomy, and we added them together into defining what co-creative apps are. And I want to round off with just that something that came to mind, that in game design, game designers that have worked with open world games where you can go anywhere, do anything. What they've found is that autonomy is actually not very engaging for the user. Yeah, you can go anywhere, you can see anything in the world, but what is more engaging is actually the volition, which is purposeful autonomy. Like you can do anything, but there's also meaning to it. So that's also something for a future episode to talk about the difference of autonomy or and volition, or what is purposeful autonomy. How do we give, and you've touched on that today as well. How do we give the AI purpose with having autonomy?
Yeah, and last thing there, I think that fits perfectly into talking about co-creating with autonomous AI native products, because what unites us in many ways in co-creation is purpose. You know,
Yes.
you're doing something together for a reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome. Thanks,
Yeah.
Martin.
Thank you, Rasmus, and thank you to the listener for staying with us all to the end of this episode of Co-Creating with AI. And see you next time. Thanks, Rasmus. Have a nice
Thanks, Martin.
rest of the day.
Yeah, you too.